Good evening, everybody. Tonight, we are at the Zoning Board of Appeals, and there are seats if anybody wants to sit up there. The City of Peabody Zoning Board of Appeals meets tonight in accordance with Massachusetts general laws. You know, everybody tells me that the acoustics here are horrible and you can't hear me. Can you all hear me?
Really?
Yes? Okay. Let's see. Tonight's hearing will be conducted in the following manner. The secretary will read the legal notice or state that such notice has been waived. All applications this evening will be heard in the order they were received in the city clerk's office. The petitioner or petitioner's representative will present the subject application to us. The chair may limit the length of all remarks. All parties in interest will be given an opportunity to speak either in favor or in opposition to a pending application, and the board may receive similar written communication to be placed on the public record. The petitioner will then be given the opportunity to refute any such remarks, and now I will explain it so you can understand it. We're going to be taking the agenda in order. The secretary will read your application as we have it in front of us. When it's your turn, you'll come up to the podium, state your name and address for the record, and then you tell us in your own words why you're here. If you have an attorney or a builder or somebody else with you that is going to explain it for you, that's fine. I need to remind you that you are here for dimensional relief. So, if you are, after you explain what you're doing here, we'll ask you some questions, then I'll open it up to the audience. Your neighbors, is there anybody that wants to speak in favor? If there are, they will come up to the podium, give their name and address for the record, and tell us what wonderful neighbors you are, and they have no problem with you building your garage. I will then say, is there anybody to speak in opposition? Excuse me. Come up to the podium, state your name and address for the record, and tell us why you are in opposition to your neighbors building whatever they're building. Remember, you're here for dimensional relief, so we do not want to hear things that you are not in favor of your neighbor building whatever it is because their dog barks, you think that there's going to be wild parties, they park on your lawn, their leaves fall in your pool. We don't want to hear any of that. That's not our business, that's neighborhood concerns, and that should have all been taken care of before you came to see us tonight. So, that being said, once that is all done, we will ask maybe a few more questions, or your lawyer or you yourself can come back up to the podium and address any of the issues, if there were any in opposition, and then we take a vote. Either yes, you get your variance tonight, or I'm sorry, we just can't do it because you asked for enormous amount of relief, which we cannot give you, because if we were going to give enormous amount of relief to everybody, there would be no need for us. So, as much as we would love to approve everything, please take into consideration realizing that just sometimes we can't approve everything. Then the decision will be typed and filed with the city clerk. Once the decision is filed with the city clerk, you have a 20-day appeal period to wait. In compliance with the open meeting law, this hearing is also being recorded by our clerk, Ms. Carla McGrath. When you're at the microphone, please speak clearly and only speak when at the podium to ensure you are on the record. I know I don't have to say this anymore, but 9.5 out of 10 times, when you're done speaking and the meeting is continuing and you remember that you said something or you don't like what somebody else is saying and somebody shouts from their seat, please don't do that. If you have a burning desire to come back up to the podium, you may, but please don't shout it from your seat. So, I guess I don't have to tell everybody to silence their cell phones, and of course I didn't Now I did. So, we are going to begin with number 1, which is a continued application, 6 Azalea Lane.
Legal notice number 1 is a continued application continued application of 437 Essex Inc. for a variance from the provisions of the zoning ordinance 2020 as amended, section 7.2, as it applies to the premise known as 6 Azalea Lane, Peabody, Massachusetts, 056-074. Petitioner seeks a variance for an addition with a roof extension to cover walkway and requires relief to side yard where 20 feet is required and 12.8 feet is proposed, front yard where 25 feet is required and 24.2 feet is proposed. The property is located in an R1 zoning district.
Thank you. My name is Patrick Burke. I represent Bass River Inc., who is the lessee of the property at 6 Azalea Lane by a companion corporation, 437 Essex Inc. And this property has been used continuously since 1990 as a group home for developmentally disabled adults. And an addition was done recently to extend the front of the property out. And all of that was approved by the board, by the building department, and that was granted a building permit. You can see on the right-hand side a little bit of a jog in the building, and that jog to the sign line is 20 feet. However, the reason for the addition is a safety concern. A door had to be put in on the right side at the end of the shaded area towards the middle of the building. And that door is a safety door that can accommodate wheelchairs, hospital beds, that sort of thing. So the shaded area that you see is a concrete walkway. But it was suggested for safety also that a roof extend over the concrete, which it does in the front. So this just finishes that off. But as you can see, from the edge of the side of the right side building to the sideline, it is 13.5. And so the overhang is, say, 5.5 from the building in width. So it exceeds the requirement of the dimensional requirement of a roof, which is 4.5 and 25 square feet. So that is what we're trying to do with this variance. And you'll notice there's in the front, because of the extension of the roof, from the edge of the roof to the front is 24.3 in a 25 district. With me here is Larry Lusignan, who is Executive Director of Bass River, Inc.
Yeah, I think the main purpose is as our people age, we have requirements to evacuate nighttime fire drills within 2.5 minutes. As their ambulation decreases, it's becoming more and more important to be able to push people out directly from their bedrooms in beds so that we can meet the evacuation requirements.
Thank you. Questions or comments from, you can turn that off. From the board. Is there anyone in the audience to speak in favor? In opposition? Could you move over, please? State your name and address for the record, please.
Hi, I'm Roger Govert. I am the neighbor at 8 Azalea Lane, immediately to the right. Before I register some specific comments, I'd just like to make some, what I believe, corrections to the testimony we just heard. The neighbor had stated that they've been there since continuously since 1990. I've been in 8 Azalea since 2003, and my neighbor at the time was not residential living or assisted living. So I don't know where they get the 1990.
Okay, can I stop you right there?
Yep.
Could I have the attorney back up to the podium, please? So it seems like a significant glitch. Could you address that, please?
Actually, I thought it was 1990. That's when I believe I thought that the deed was. I may be mistaken.
Yes.
Yes.
Have you been in operation on Azalea Lane?
I don't have that date with me at this point.
Have you been there, the director?
40 years.
Azalea Lane directing for 40 years?
No. I've been with Bash River for 40 years.
I want to know how long you've been on Azalea Lane.
I don't have the exact date that where we moved into Azalea or purchased that property. I don't have that.
I mean, I'm sure I could.
See what I mean? That's what I mean. And what happens? And they talk from their seat. So it may not seem like a big deal, but if you're going to state 1999 and it's not 1999 and nobody knows when it is, once again, it doesn't have anything to do with dimensional relief, but it's...
Well, I can see your point of concern. You want to credit what I have said to you, and so you found something that you can't, and I can't right at the moment. So, but I would say that so much has gone into this, and I would just ask for a sense that this is not most relevant to what we're doing tonight. And I apologize if I misspoke. Yeah.
Remember now, your opposition to the variance, not to what is there.
Understood. But with regards to the existing application and the variance itself, the application says the existing property is 20 feet distance, but you also heard the testimony of that the variance would cause, or being requested, is 13.5, and the walkway is only 5 feet. The point being is that the existing property is within 20 feet of the property line right now. According to my calculations, it's 17.8.
Are you looking at a updated plot plan of this whole thing, or what are you looking at?
I'm looking at the existing plot plan and listening to the testimony and what the variance calls for. We heard that the variance they're requesting on the side yard, they're requesting to be within 12.8. And we heard the testimony of the walkway or the roof is 5 feet.
Through the chair, for that variance, are you talking about the property on the right side, not your property?
Property on the right side.
Just want to be clear.
Yeah. So we're already within 20 feet and not the 20 feet as stated in the application. That being said, some specific concerns I have, the existing property already has a variance to the current zoning requirements. Is a greater variance really necessary? We live in an...
They did state that why they needed that variance. So I'm wondering what your opposition is
Sure.
for.
Hey, we live in a residential area. I support the mission that they have an assistant living in a residential area. The proposed construction makes the building commercial-like. It really is in conflict with the rest of the neighborhood. Having additional doorways is in the walkway is inconsistent with the residential feel and the purpose of the zoning requirements, in my opinion. And, to be honest, worked hard to maintain the property. I was born and raised in Peabody. I believe that the variance request is actually detrimental to my investment in the neighborhood. And believe it's just very inconsistent with the area that we currently live in. All right?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anybody else to speak in opposition?
Good evening, I'm Ed Nevins. I live at 10 Azalea Lane. I've been a lifelong resident of Peabody, as has my family, for about 100 years. Oh, sorry about that. As with my neighbor, I do object to this in that the way they're moving, it affects the image of the neighborhood as far as being a residential area. It's starting to look more institutional, and we have neighbors who've made a lot of investments in their property, and it's nice to have people who have special needs in the neighborhood, but I think there's also a commitment to the neighborhood that we need to maintain it in its image as a residential area. And I think we're starting to move past that with this edifice. I took a moment to review the Bass River website, and it seems that they have a policy of expanding their facilities, which is nice, but I think, if you're going to give people a mainstream environment, it's nice that they have a yard like the rest of us and that you don't try to continue. There's been expansion to the property in the past, and it may be, good for their economics of scale, but I think it's getting to a noticeable degree to move outside the realm of residential. And that's my objection. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else in opposition?
Good evening, Madam Chair and members of the Zoning Board of Appeals. My name is Mark O'Neill, and I live at 21 Antrim Road. I'm a current member of the City Council and serve as the Ward 6 Councilor where this property is located. I'm here tonight to speak against this petitioner's request. Overall, I believe that this group home will still be able to provide the same level of care to its residents without the approval of these variances. However, denying these requests will be beneficial to the homeowners in this neighborhood. I'm concerned that granting the relief from both side yard and front yard zoning may adversely affect the value of the single-family homes throughout this neighborhood. The requested variances will not blend with the character or look of this street in the neighborhood where it's located. Lastly, but most importantly, the applicant has not demonstrated a substantial hardship for this request. I respectfully ask that you deny this variance request. Thank you for allowing me to speak tonight.
Thank you, Councilor. Anybody else in opposition? Would the attorney like to speak about anything?
On to a few of the things mentioned. The first objector, Mr. Govert, I know is a good neighbor. We've had a chance to talk and meet on the site because as a result of this measurements, we found that there was a fence of his encroaching on the Bass River property, and I think we have that understood at this point. The point I'm making, the reason why that's relevant is when this was first proposed, it may have seemed as though his sideline was closer to the house than it is. Secondly, he said that the the concrete way that I had stated to you that it was 5 feet, it's 5.5 feet. And so from the point of the edge of that roof to the sideline, it is 13.5. And from the side of the house to the sideline is 19. And that, of course, is a pre-existing wall. The house was built in 1961. And I did misspeak, and I am very apologetic. I should have known better because Bass River came into the property in 2012. And I should have known that because I was attorney for Bass River then, and I had done the purchase. The other comment I'd make is there's a misunderstanding, and I can understand why, that it was stated that this is more of a commercial venture, or it tends more toward commercial, and that's not true. It is truly a residential property. And under statute, the use of this is protected as a charitable, educational, but it's facility, but it still has to comply with sideline setback and those dimensional requirements. I would say that the burden on the property is not great considering it is a roof. And I think it's consistent with many properties in the neighborhood. If you ride around, there are many roofs very similar to this in the front and on the side. So the intention was to do a job that was in keeping with the neighborhood. I don't think that, I am not aware of any complaints that have been made by the residents concerning the use of this property. Bass River has tried over the years, it has other properties in Peabody, tried over the years to make sure that they are good neighbors. At the same time, they're providing this vital service. And as far as hardship, it is a safety feature that that door is put in on the side. And Department of Developmental Disabilities wants that door in. And so that's the original side of the house, which was 1991. So we're not getting a variance on that. And I'd point out that the addition, that little jog, lower left, that's the 20-foot line from the edge of that little jog in to the sideline. So I don't think there's any other way, given that the lot is configured like this, that this minimal job, this minimal improvement to the premises could be done. And I think it's consistent with the purposes of the zoning ordinance to allow the variance.
Through the chair, I just want to make sure that I'm perfectly clear on this.
Yes.
We're talking about the jog. You're talking about when we look at the plans, the one
Yes.
to the right side, that tiny little jog right there, on this corner here where the roof is proposed to be?
Where it's shaded
Yeah.
to the street side, the building goes in.
Okay.
Okay, that's a jog in. Why they did that was they didn't want to go for variance. The building department came out, they inspected this, and they wouldn't have needed a variance because that would not have enlarged the encroachment on the right-hand side.
Okay, and when was that?
Last December,
December,
the
okay.
work was done, yes.
And when did you first find out that the health was looking for that second means of egress and access on the side?
Well, I knew for quite a while that that second egress was needed. I didn't know that they wanted a roof on top of that concrete.
Do we know why they want a roof?
Well, because of inclement weather and safety, if they had to transport by wheelchair or by hospital bed. They need a concrete floor, and they just simply want to make sure that, to increase safety in ice collecting and that sort of thing. And the other thing I'd say is that's consistent with the roof on the front. And, and there's going to be a gutter on that roof. And that's why an additional half foot was added to make sure that that would encompass the gutter.
One thing that I'm thinking here, and this is just one board member's thought, is that for me at least, it would be very helpful to see if there was some kind of correspondence from that organization that says they want this covered. Because I can understand the benefit to having it covered, but at the same time looking at it, thinking to myself, oh, you already have everything else. You can put a door in there. It'd be a 10, 12-foot section there that'd be uncovered. Presumably, they're not bringing ambulances into that 12.5-foot stretch, given the width is probably wider than most ambulances. So I think if there's an emergency or something, you're taking out through that side door around the front, and they'd immediately be back under the roof again on the side. So I see both sides of this. I see why the neighbors would be unhappy with it. They perceive it as a building upon a building upon a building. But I see why you are asking for it, you're being told by an agency that you need it. So for me, at least, it would be helpful to see that agency's correspondence saying
I don't know if there's correspondence. They come out, they examine plans, and they speak to us. I don't know what you mean by a building on a building on a building, because that right side is the existing building line.
I just mean in general. But one of the abutters had mentioned is that it has expanded over time or something along those lines.
I don't know of any expansion over time on that side.
So maybe that was just speaking to Bass River in general?
Yeah.
Okay. Because that would have been my concern.
But
This
I
was
think
built upon,
it's-
then built again.
I think it's common sense why it would be needed. And, in light of the use of the building, I think it's very consistent with that. And I also think that a 5.5-foot overhang roof is very consistent with the neighborhood. You'll see in that neighborhood there are many roofs over the front of the building, and this is consistent with the front of the building. So if I could be of any more help.
Good evening.
Yes.
Let me ask you this, and I really don't have an issue with roof jogs if they're going to cover walkways to help elderly people exit buildings in emergency situations.
Sure.
But has any thought been put into looking at the left side of the building, putting an entrance there where you wouldn't even need a variance because you wouldn't be extending closer to this gentleman's property? You'd just have a doorway that would also connect to this walkway?
The situation is that's where the bedroom is. That's where a bedroom is.
Okay.
And so that's where the door would go in. Normally, that door is not used, but it needs a door, and it needs one that would accommodate a wheelchair and a hospital bed if needed. We don't have too much call for hospital beds, but in case it's needed, it would be an improvement to the property.
Right. All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Any other comments from the audience? Any other comments, questions, concerns of the board? Yes, Chris?
I have a question. I believe you said the construction was done in December of 2021?
Yes, it was November, December 2021 by a building permit. That roof is not, the roof that we're talking about tonight is not on the building.
Was there any discussion at that point about this roof?
No, I think it came up afterwards. The building the building plan called for the concrete walk. And it also called for potentially the 4.5-foot roof, but not 5 feet to 5.5 feet. And so we're talking about a very small margin here, but nevertheless, out of respect for the zoning, we submitted this, and it was denied by the building inspector, and that's why we're before you on a variance. As you know, the zoning ordinance allows for 4.5 feet roof, so long as it's not 25 square feet in total. So this is, it's just beyond half of that, but it is more than 25 square feet.
The other houses on the street, approximately.
This is a
Oh, wait.
single-family home, so the roof is not high. It's a ranch.
Any other questions, comments by the board? Hearing none, the matter is before the board.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Seconded.
Motion to approve.
Roll call vote.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, the application is approved.
Thank you very much. Good evening.
Number 2 is 7 James Street.
Legal notice number 2 is an application of Joseph Amico for a variance from the provisions of the zoning ordinance 2020 as amended, section 7.2, as it applies to the premise known as 7 James Street, Peabody, Massachusetts, 084-065. Petitioner seeks a variance to enclose open deck to a screened-in porch and requires relief to side yard where 15 feet is required and 4.5 feet is proposed. The property is located in an R1A zoning district.
Mr. and Mrs. Amico, you're on. Yep.
This is to certainly just be able to enjoy that part and that space in our house more and during more of the year than we can currently with it being open as a deck. So that's what we're hoping to do. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody in the audience to speak? Oh, any questions or comments by the board first?
Quick question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Through the chair, you're not expanding the existing deck at all, you're just covering it.
No, we're not.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anybody in the audience to speak in favor? Nobody wants to speak in favor of Mr. Amico? In opposition? Hearing none, the matter is before the board.
Motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion to approve.
Roll call vote.
Yes.
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 Yes. You've been approved.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Have a nice night.
Appreciate it. All right.
3, Burlington Coat Factory.
Legal notice number 3 is an application of Burlington Coat Factory Realty for a variance from the provisions of zoning ordinance 2020 as amended, section 11.5.2, as it applies to the premise known as 320 Andover Street in Peabody, Massachusetts, lot 029-008A. Petitioner seeks a variance for 2 wall signs and requires relief to wall sign size where 75 square feet is allowed, and wall sign 1 is 224.7 square feet, and wall sign 2 is 100.8 square feet. The property is located in a business BR zoning district.
Good evening. My name is Michaela Noyen. I'm part of the permit expediting team for this at-home location. A substantial hardship, financial or otherwise, is created when there is a vacant retail property in our current economic climate. Burlington will no longer be occupying this space, and at-home would need to take its place among its competitors. This is a business that is not located in every city, and patrons will have to be coming from outlying communities. Many of the motorists that travel here will be unfamiliar with the area and search for the store. The space is detriment to the community overall by causing the area to become deteriorated. It's in everyone's best interest to have a thriving business occupy this large retail space. The signs are necessary for the business to be viable. This is the smallest sign in the current sign family for this space, and a substantial hardship is created when the business that is set back over 325 square feet from the roadway cannot be seen. This location is over 800 feet from the entrance, and the sign must be visible from the main entrance for motorists to find their way here. Both signs proposed are not a detriment to public good, but rather in keeping with the overall intent of the sign ordinance. The sign proposed is designed to encourage the effective use of signs as a means of communication in Peabody to alert motorists that this at-home store is located here. The sign is designed to maintain and enhance the aesthetic environment and Peabody's ability to attract sources of economic development and growth. The sign is for a business that wishes to occupy a building that would otherwise become a vacant retail space, which is not good for the economic growth. The sign is designed to improve pedestrian and traffic safety. It notifies the motorists of their destination and provides for clear visibility. The United States Sign Council is a nonprofit organization located in Doylestown, Pennsylvania, and the sign industry uses their research and criteria to design signs that are legible and visible. For a parallel sign that is over 40 feet from a one-lane roadway, the United States Sign Council recommends that the sign to be a minimum of 82 inches in height. This sign is the minimum necessary with the riser of the H to be 84 inches in height, and all other letters are 60 inches in height. The sign proposed is designed to minimize the possible adverse effect of the signs on nearby public and private property. The at-home logo is their trademark brand name that is designed to alert the public of the store's location. The sign proposal is designed to enable the fair and consistent enforcement of these sign restrictions. This type of sign is allowed by the ordinance. The signs proposed are channel letters that are consistent with what the ordinance is allowing overall. If the signs were allowed the 20% of the wall, we wouldn't be here this evening. The south elevation is the corner entry, and the wall length is 395 feet, and the wall height is 20 feet 6 inches. The overall wall area of the south elevation is just about 10,000 square feet. 20% of that would be 2,014 square feet. However, the ordinance caps the allowance to 75 square feet for a BR zoning. This is an extra large retail establishment that occupies 94,000 square feet of floor space. Typically, a building of this sign would have several tenants with several signs, and each tenant would have a sign that is 20% of the wall or 75 square feet. To take, for example, with a 15-foot storefront, this building could create 26 different occupancies. Each one of those businesses with the 15-feet storefront and the same wall height would be allowed 75 square feet. If this was separated into 26 storefronts, it would result in about 1,900 square feet of sign area. Frankly, it doesn't make sense to me that the same building could have this much signage, but one tenant that is 800 feet from the shopping center entrance can't have adequate signage for the visibility. The design of the signs respect and are compatible with the architecture of the building, surrounding buildings, and the general character of the surrounding neighborhood. The signs will be adequate but not excessive for the intended purpose of identification, protection, or advertisement. The signs are demonstrated the minimum necessary for visibility and for this tenant to be identified here.
I have one question. I see that they're going to be flush with the building. How are they going to be lit?
They're going to be internally illuminated. They'll just be internally illuminated channel letters.
Okay. questions by the board? Anybody in the audience to speak in, whoa,
Just
okay.
one quick comment. For that area there, I tend to agree with this, that
Yeah.
larger signage that can be seen from 114 is beneficial to everybody.
Everybody.
Being able to see it and not having last minute changes of direction and swerving, and especially in that area of 114.
Thank you. In favor? In opposition? Hearing none, the matter is before the board.
Motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion to approve.
Roll call vote.
Yes.
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 Yes, you've been approved. You're welcome. Number 4 is Improved Home Solution, 10 Bassford Court.
Legal notice number 4 is an application of Improved Home Solutions LLC for a variance from the provisions of zoning ordinance 2020 as amended sections 7.2, 9.3, and 10.52 as it applies to the premise known as 10 Bassford Court, Peabody, Massachusetts, lot 05085-266. Petitioner seeks a variance to cover a single-family dwelling into a two-family dwelling and requires relief to lot area where 34,500 square feet is required and 3,416 square feet is proposed. Front yard setback where 20 feet is required and 8 feet is proposed. Left side yard setback where 15 feet is required and 3 feet is proposed. Rear yard setback where 35 feet is required and 2 yards are proposed. Landscaping where street trees are required and none are proposed. Driveway coverage where no more than 15% coverage is allowed. Curb cut where 12 feet is allowed and 32 feet is proposed. The property is located in an R4 zoning district.
Thank you, members of the Board of Appeals. My name is John Kelty. I'm an attorney. I have offices at 40 Lowell Street in Peabody, Massachusetts, and I appear on behalf of Leo Alemji, who is the owner and operator of Improved Home Solutions of 7 Raymond Road in Salem, Mass. Mr. Alemji has purchased the property at 10 Bassford Court. It was, at one time, we believe the assessor's records indicate that it had been, long ago, it had been a two-family. When my client purchased the property, it had been used as a single-family home with 7 bedrooms and 1 bath. My client will, if granted these variances, my client will create 2 units, one being a 2-bedroom unit with 1 full bath, and the second would be 4 bedrooms on 2 floors with 2 full baths, and whatever would be necessary in order to create the proper exits and egresses would be added. However, there will be no addition to the external portions of the premises. We have filed with the building commissioner and with the board. We filed our architectural plans, which indicate the layout of these apartments if they are approved by this board. The crux of the problem or the issue is that we are located in R4 zoning district, in which to develop property in an R4 zoning district, it's anticipated that you would be developing residential properties, and you need a minimum of 30,000 square feet plus 750 square feet per bedroom. This particular property would require 34,500 square feet if it were to conform to the area required for such a project in the R4 zoning district. Even the house itself, as a single family, is non-conforming in as much as at the time it was built around the turn of the century, the zoning, there was no zoning. Peabody adopted zoning in 1937, and at some point, this property went from single-family zone to R4. The R4 zoning district is what has allowed the development of tannery apartments and the condominiums on both sides of Lowell Street, and we're seeking relief from the requirements of an R4 zoning district so that we can move forward with variances that would allow this particular house to be utilized as a two-family. Once again, there are no changes to the external portions of the property. The setbacks that were read by Keith or Mr. Slatter, are the existing front and rear side yards. So we are not creating those to be non-conforming. Those are the existing side yards of the existing structure. We're hoping to use the driveway for 4 parking spaces in as much as there is room, and we'd like to remove the curb in front of all those spaces. If there is resistance with respect to, we do know that our neighbors have some concerns with respect to water. If there's concern about opening that driveway up, we would add either swale or pipe, or we would close down the driveway. But it lends itself to the 4 cars being off the street. Bassford Court is somewhat narrow. It is a dead end. My client is at the end of that dead end, and we would like to be able to get all our cars off of the street that are intended to be used in conjunction with this two-family. And with that, I'm happy to answer questions that the board may have. Thank you.
Are these going to be condos?
No, it's a rental.
You know, you're asking for a lot.
I understand that I'm asking for a lot of relief, but what I'm really, the only relief I'm seeking that is not existing, the only relief I'm seeking is relief from the area requirement, because I have a lot that is 3,400 plus square feet, and the zoning district requires that I have at the outset a minimum of 30 plus 750 per bedroom. So this property never came close. Once it was made R4, it never came close to the requirements of the zoning district it's located in.
Let's talk about this a little bit as I'm looking at this. So, so you have this building on this oddly shaped lot, and you want to make this into 2 apartments?
Yes,
How many floors?
on 3 floors. It's already the existing, there's not a floor being added. That's the existing structure.
And you'll have room for, each apartment will have a space for 2 cars? Is that what
Yes.
you just said?
That's what shows on our plan, correct.
Yeah, please.
I see you're putting a deck right up against the property line in the back. How high is the deck? How high is that wall?
Deck is only to the first floor, and the wall that's existing, is that the,
I didn't see the height.
I think that it's only a 2 or 3 foot wall.
Okay. And then do you know how large the fence is on the other property?
I do not.
Okay. But there's not going to be a deck on the 2nd or 3rd floor? That's just a deck for the first floor?
Correct.
Okay.
Any questions yet? Okay, we'd like to hear from the neighbors. Anybody in favor? Didn't think so. Anybody in opposition?
My name is Donna Jansky. I live at 9 Bassford Court, directly across from the premise 10 Bassford Court. I've been there for 33 years. I am opposed to this being a two-family, and I am also opposed to where they have already placed the driveway. It is already located at the far end of the property, right up against the wall, the retaining wall, and there is nowhere that that person who would reside there could be able to get out of their driveway to turn around. Bassford Court is a court. It is a driveway width. We already have people that park on our sidewalks, and additional two-family, that you're talking another 4 cars, it just won't work.
Because of time constraints and the weather, I was not able to go and take a look at this. So Jack, I have a question. Attorney Kelty.
I have one correction, too.
Yeah.
That deck is second floor, not first floor. Otherwise, I'd be seeking relief for it.
So, did I misunderstand that these driveways, these parking areas, did I misunderstand that, were they just put in?
I believe that, go ahead.
Yes, the parking lots were put in probably September timeframe.
Our objective is to get the cars off the street. So, you know, we're trying to accommodate that. There's an existing cut there now, but
Okay, no, here's my question. So you put in 4 parking spaces already, right? So were they needed by the people that live there? Oh, there's only 2?
that
Two
are there.
spaces that are needed by the people that live there now?
That were there, yes. There's nobody living there now. I think the people that my client purchased from had pretty much abandoned the property. And when my clients, there are no tenants, there are no owners in possession.
Okay. From other neighbors?
My name is Steve Doyle. I live at 11 Bassford Court for the last 15 years. My opposition is that the prior tenant who had moved to a nursing home didn't have a car, had no parking off the street. 4 new cars. There's no place to park there. My house is the last house on the dead-end street. When they put the snow there, they put it in front of my house, which will be in front of the driveway. I don't know how people are going to back down and park there. But that's my real concern. It's just the parking on the street. There's not enough of it, and 4 more cars. There's no place for them.
This is probably irrelevant, but Attorney Kelty, could I have you at the podium again? Just give me a minute. So nobody's living in the house, but somebody decided to already put in driveways? Explain that to me, please.
Yes. This is Leo. I'm Leo.
Hi.
When I bought the property, based on the zoning laws, I used 15% of the square feet asphalt based on my finding through the city. I created 2 parking lots. So because I'm converting the property to 2 families, so I have the available land to create more parking. So I have to go through the zoning board to get the permission so I can get 4 parking and get cars off the street. My goal is to get the cars.
I understand that, but first of all, you don't have any permission for a 2-family at all yet.
Yes.
If at all. And the second thing is, if nobody's, and this has nothing to do with dimensional relief, but for my own personal knowledge, nobody's living in that house, but you already created parking driveways. Is that correct? Am I hearing this correctly?
Yeah, I created 2.
You created
I
two.
created two, yes.
For you, but you don't live there.
No, the thing is, my goal is developing the house for living.
Okay, that's all okay, I
Yeah.
get it. Okay, thank you. Some more neighbors.
I live at Baptist Court. They put a driveway in. They pitched it. The rain comes down, goes into my cellar. They took the curb out. It was a flat curb. They already removed that. I have pictures here. I'd like to show you, okay? And you can see what,
Give those to us, we have to keep them.
okay, that's good. This is Steve's house right here. Right here.
11 Bassford, yep. Yes, I am.
Yep. This is the snow. You can't back out. And I'll show you where this snowstorm.
Sure.
Now, he says he has a driveway. Why are they parking on the street? And if you park, you can't get by.
Okay.
Here's the snow plow trying to get out. He got stuck up there.
Do me a favor, what is this picture showing us?
That is showing where he dug it up in front of his house.
Is this his driveway, or?
No, that's this guy's driveway.
Okay.
I have the other ones, the other driveways.
The picture we're discussing is reflecting a mound at the
Right.
end of the sidewalk.
Right.
And there's
He
do
should have
not,
never dug that at all.
That's the retaining
wall.
okay.
That he took out.
Make sure we get on the record. If you're
This is
gonna, okay, so
okay.
the retaining wall, I don't know if he's got permits. I'm gonna ask him that.
Whatever he did, there's no permits taken out on that property. And the young lady.
Can we get Mr. Kelty back up here? One second. Could,
Curb cut, don't you need?
you need it for a curb cut? You need it to remove a retaining wall.
I just want to make
Because
one
of
thing
water,
clear.
because of-
Yep, go ahead.
He did not abandon that property. When the mother went into the nursing home, she died. The children came and sold the property to him.
Okay, got it.
But it wasn't abandoned.
Yep.
And here's some more
Yeah, you
right
can just-
here. Now, this is a picture of my house.
I'll just take him. Carla, we're accepting a group of pictures at whatever exhibit you want to mark them at.
Mr. Kelty, Attorney Kelty, I know Mr. Slattery has some questions, but I also, when you cut a curb, don't you need permission from somebody?
I would say, in general, yes.
Absolutely. And I don't believe that there was any permission, it was just done?
I believe that is the case, yes.
Okay.
Also, if you remove a retaining wall or put down a driveway, don't you need permission from the city engineer as well?
I don't know that to be the case, but
Okay.
I'm not disputing it. Where was the ret wall?
I grabbed those pictures back.
Can I say something about the curb? There was no curb. I find out the city.
So the reason the city engineer would get involved in a retaining wall or driveway is for exactly what one of the residents talked about, water runoff. Jack?
Okay.
We're gonna side by you for a minute. Are there any other neighbors that want to speak in opposition? Have we heard them all? Okay, you may sit. Thank you very much. Yep. You're all on the record. You're all on the record. We're gonna keep your pictures. Thank you. Yeah. So if this zoning board has any questions or concerns right now, I'm going to give Attorney Kelty time to say something else.
Client did approach the city with respect to the removal of that wall and with respect to trying to create these parking spaces. The effort was to create an area where eventually there would be no need to park on the street. So we are trying to, with this permit, we are trying to resolve issues. If there is a water issue, we have no objection to adding a drain or adding some sort of, we can't, if we're going to use it to park, we can't add a curbing to direct water. However, what we would do, and do happily, would be to create a drain to direct water into the gutter and away from the other side of the street so that it gets to storm drain. There is not a storm drain at the end of the street, but there is out towards School Street. So we're happy to add whatever the engineering department might tell us we might need in order to prevent water from crossing Bassford Court.
When you started this last little dissertation, you said that he went to the building department for what?
The building department to speak with them about the removal.
Yeah, the removal, the creation of the parking lot, and which they gave me all the detailed information and who to call to
Do you know anything about that, Carla?
Speaking to the mic.
Okay. They gave me the.
Who did you speak to?
I spoke to Dan, the inspector. So he gave me.
Okay. No,
I'm
I
not-
just,
yeah.
no, that's fine.
Okay.
Okay.
Sorry, can I say one thing, please? So I gathered all this information and submitted to the paver, which I use for my property paving. So it was based on the document I signed with the paver. He's supposed to pull a permit to do the job. When he came in, I didn't ask him if he pulled the permit or not. So, but I did all the research and provide all the information to the paver, which he was supposed to sign and take the permit from the city before doing the paving. At that level, I didn't know, but I did all the inquiries. I still get the numbers of those that I call, and the person who confirmed to me that there's no curb. I don't have to pay the $25 fee for the curb because there's no existing curb by the city. That was just the permission, the information they gave me. Yeah, thank you.
Board is concerned about water on other properties. I would have no objection to continuing the matter till I went to the Public Services Department to determine whether or not we should be trying to tie into a storm drain, or if the gutter is such that it would carry this water back to the beginning of the street. I'm not sure if Bassford Court is even, I think it's flat, so I'm not sure that it has the, like the football field, the sort of rise in the middle.
Any other concerns or questions by the board?
I just want to make sure that I'm clear on this so we have all the information, make a decision. I know we're kind of harping on this parking area a little bit here, but so I just want to make sure, Attorney Kelt, that this was, obviously this was the current owner that did some work over there to create it. It was paved. Your guy, yes. Was there a need for a permit that should have been issued, that didn't issue? Because I mean, I'm not necessarily comfortable making a decision at all until we know if that work is in compliance. Right. Like whether the city engineer needed to be involved or not, if DPW needed to be involved or not. I don't want to vote yes or no on anything until I know for certain that this part here, the parking, is done correctly. Because if we say yes and that parking wasn't done correctly, that's a problem. And if we say no based upon that parking being done incorrectly, there are other issues too, but this one just kind of stands out that I feel like we're missing information that would really help us make a decision on this.
I think it might be appropriate that we continue the matter, and then I can get a letter from the building department as to whether permits were necessary and a recommendation as to how we ought to treat the grading of that driveway so that it does not impact our neighbors.
Through the chair, I do want to say that I've heard everyone about the parking. This will be a 6-bedroom, 2-dwelling. We can't guarantee, and since we don't have a permitting system in Peabody in which you're fined for parking, we can't put conditions on this for parking or anything like that. There could ostensibly be 6 cars in there, we've heard the residents' complaints on that. I do have an issue with the deck in the back. It's encroaching right on the property behind it, and it's high. So any privacy hopes that the 2 residents that abut it in the back have would be gone. So I do have an issue with that. I want to let you know ahead of time. Okay.
So Jack, are you going to ask for a continuance, or you want to vote?
Yes, I would respectfully request that the board continue this matter till the next meeting so that I would be able to better and further address the questions that are outstanding this evening.
I'll make a motion to continue to our next meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we'll see you next month. 5 is 1 Lone Pine.
Legal notice number 5 is an application of Cardello, Michael, and Deny? Okay. Yeah, we don't use the word deny here unless we have to. Okay. For a variance from the provisions of the zoning ordinance 2020 as amended, section 7.2 as it applies to the premise known as 1 Lone Pine Lane, Peabody, Massachusetts, 014-119. Petitioner seeks a variance for an addition and requires relief to right side yard where 20 feet is required and 11.5 feet is proposed. The property is located in an R1 zoning district.
My name is Brian Suring, 24 Hudson Street, Woburn, Massachusetts. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm a contractor. Trying to help these people do the addition. The reason for this addition is her mom was just diagnosed with Alzheimer's, and she wants to be a caregiver to her mother. So she wants to build something that's wheelchair accessible, where the mother can easily get in and out of the property. It seems like the neighbors are all for this addition and helping out this family. And that's what we're looking for.
Okay, so on this application and hearing you, all I'm hearing is addition and wheelchair accessible.
Yep.
But I don't know, is it going to be 1 room, 2 room? Is it going to be a bedroom? Are you going to have a little kitchen? Are you going to have a bathroom? What do you have?
It is. It's going to have
what?
It's going to have a small kitchen, living area, and a bedroom.
So right now, you're asking for a FALA, and we can't hear this, so you have to go back to the building department and you have to apply for a FALA, because that's what you're asking for. And Carla, our clerk, can explain it all to you tomorrow.
Oh.
But we can't do this as a plain addition because it isn't. You're asking for a little kitchen, a bedroom, a little living area for your mother, which is no problem, absolutely no problem. It's just that we can't accept this tonight because a FALA has to be approved by the building commissioner, and Mrs. McGrath will walk you all through that tomorrow.
Okay.
So what do we do with this now? We
Ask it to be
withdrawn?
yeah,
Without prejudice.
without prejudice.
Could you ask for it to be withdrawn without prejudice? I need for you to say it.
Oh, I'd like this to be withdrawn without prejudice.
Make a motion to allow the withdrawal without prejudice.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Any opposed? No. Okay.
I understand that. I totally understand that. My question is, once we go through the other department, do we have to then apply for a variance, like, because we are, so we have to do this, wait again?
You should just call me in the morning and I'll explain everything to you. What you're proposing is over the square footage allowed for a parlor, and so you're gonna have to downsize that.
Okay.
In which case you may not need the variance. But it really all depends on the plans.
Okay, no, that's fine. I just didn't know the process. Right. Right. No, I want to do what's right. Painless.
She normally does.
Thank you.
6 is 9 Sherry Lee Lane.
Legal notice number 6 is an application of Hanan Katie L. and Greg DeVincentis for a variance from the provisions of the zoning ordinance 2020 as amended, section 7.1.5, as it applies to the premise known as 9 Sherry Lee Lane, Peabody, Mass. Lot 050-135. Petitioner seeks a variance for accessory structure cabana and requires relief to size where 200 square feet is allowed and 498 square feet is proposed. Rear yard setback where 10 feet is required and 7.3 feet is proposed. The property is located in an R1A zoning district.
Again, I just want to alert the board, there was a little typo on the required. It says 200, or it's on your second page. 200 square feet, it should be 120.
And how nice to be here. Where else would I rather be on a Monday evening than here with you? But for the record, my name's Ethan Vonzalitis. I'm an attorney practicing law at 246 Hanover Street in Peabody, and the petitioners had asked that I represent them at this evening's hearing. The petitioners purchased their home about a year and a half ago. I believe it was in October of 2020. It's a colonial-styled home, two-car garage, and it's situated at the end of Sherry Lee Lane, which happens to be a dead-end street. Greg and Katie are a young couple. They have 3 young children. They have a 7-year-old son, a 5-year-old daughter, and their newest addition is a 3-month-old daughter. As soon as they had purchased their home, they wanted to make their rear yard more user-friendly for the benefit of their growing family. To that end, they leveled the rear yard, they removed all the old vegetation and shrubs, they planted new landscaping, they installed new fencing, and they also installed the new retaining wall along the rear property line. And in addition to that, they installed a new built-in swimming pool along with the associated patio area. In October of last year, Mr. DeVincentis began to construct a shed that he wanted to utilize for the storage of his pool equipment and for the patio furniture in the off-season. But because they were expecting their 3rd child, he decided to expand this structure, turn it into more of a cabana, so that it could be used for both storage and for the protection from the elements for his family. Greg is constructing this on his own without the benefit of a contractor.
Does he have a building permit?
I was going to get there in a second, and like many property owners, he didn't realize that a building permit
Don't say
was-
like many property owners, because anybody that builds anything in this city, whoever is listening, you need to come to the building department and get a building permit.
Without question. But as soon as he found out a permit was required, he did stop working on the cabana and he applied for his building permit. However, as you can see from our site plan, the location of the cabana does violate the rear yard setback by just a little over 2.5 feet, and it also violates the, or exceeds the allowed area. The cabana currently sits on a concrete foundation. It's roughly 60% complete. It's 12 by 22 feet, which basically contains an area of just 265 square feet enclosed. However, the cabana does have a 4-foot long roof extension on the left side of the structure and on a portion of the and on a portion of the right of the structure, and it also has an 8-foot-long roof extension on the right side of the building. And I believe under the building code, if you have a roof extension that exceeds 3 feet, then those extensions need to be included in your total area requirement, which is why their application reads for 498 square feet, even though the enclosed cabana only contains 265 square feet. Also, the location of the cabana was based upon the fact of the extensive ledge that they ran into when they were putting the pool in. However, if any of the board members have been to the property, you'll see that their left side yard abuts forested land, and the remainder of the property is enclosed with a 6-foot-high solid fence. Behind the cabana is as I stated earlier, a new 3-foot-high retaining wall. On top of that is a 6-foot-high solid fence. In addition, the properties that are behind the petitioners, those properties that are higher elevation, so as not to impede on any of the abutters' properties or on their privacy, as only the roof of the structure is really visible to our rear abutters. The petitioners are hoping that the board will allow the structure to remain as constructed, and together we'll try to answer any questions that either the board or the public may have. Thank you.
So Attorney Vonzilides, you are asking for 378 square feet more than what's allowed.
Correct, but don't forget, in that calculation of the roof overhangs,
It's still a calculation, dear.
It is, so we will modify this any way that the board deems appropriate. We could all,
Through the chair, how far into construction is
about
it?
60% complete.
So all the footings?
It's weather tight,
Yeah.
footings in. There's no plumbing associated with this.
Are there plans to put a pool in at any time, do you know?
There's already a built-in swimming pool.
Oh, I didn't see that.
It's not shown on the plan, they just put it in.
Got a permit for that, right?
Permit for
Ah,
that,
okay.
yes, yeah.
That'd be dangerous.
All the electrical permits, all 9 yards.
Okay. Thank you.
Don't mind me asking, so it's 60% built. When did they realize they needed a permit, or how did they realize?
I think one of their neighbors came down and asked, if there was a permit that was issued. So I would say this was probably, how long ago? About a month or so?
Probably 2.5 months.
About 2.5 months ago.
Lathan, my opinion at this point in time is not only did somebody start construction, and now they're asking for forgiveness after the fact, when I feel they should have known better, but you're also asking for so much more allowance. I don't know. I mean, you need 4 yeses. I don't think you're going to get a yes from me.
I understand that, but if I could request to the board that if we can continue this to your next meeting, I could come back with a revised plan, because I can really reduce the area with just the overhangs. Does the board have a problem with the fact that it's just a little over 2.5 feet off of the 10-foot required setback? Because if necessary, it's not easy to do, but if it needs to be tweaked, we'd obviously have no alternative.
I can't speak for everybody, but I don't think the issue is so much how close it is, especially with that 9-foot combined wall fence behind it. I think it's more the issue, just the overall
Square footage.
If it's, Attorney Funsley, if it's 60% complete roughly, then it sounds like it's about give or take about 160 square feet already built.
No, the whole thing is enclosed. You have your 498 square feet the way they calculate it. Don't forget, we have a cabana that's 12 by 22. That's 265 square feet. But to the cabana, whoops, I didn't have my button on. To the cabana, on the left side and on a portion of the front, and it's shown on the site plan, is a 4-foot roof extension. And now on the right side of the structure is an 8-foot roof extension.
So the 60% isn't the, that's just the 60% total construction done. The footprint, everything's laid out. It's just that there are another 40%
We haven't finished it off, the inside
Okay.
and siding and things like that.
Okay. Thank you. That's what I was trying to figure out.
But we can, you know, if, I understand the board's position. If we need to cut down on the area, we'll just have to do it.
So I would suggest, are you going to ask for a continuance?
Yes, and I'd like a little feedback from the board with respect to what I need to come back with, if I may.
As much in compliance as you can, according to what is allowed by square footage of the zoning laws.
Okay.
And I am extremely disappointed to think that this is 60% done without a building permit. Is there anybody here tonight to speak in favor or in opposition? Was there anybody here on this, Okay, since you're here, Mr. Apostolides, we'll hear from you.
Okay, John Apostolides, 26 Rhea Baldwin. The only concern I've got, is there any blasting that's going to be done?
Oh, no.
Then I have no objection.
David Egan, 3 Cortlandt Street. I'm right behind the subject property. I mean, it sounds like I don't really need to say anything here. No, Greg is a great guy. He's new to the neighborhood. It's the Brooksby Farms area. We're very proud of our neighborhood, and Greg's got a real nice family and everything. And but as you said, it's just huge. It's really that simple. And the roof line is 32 feet, 33, 34? No, the roof line from one end of the roof to the other. It's about 34 feet, and it's you know, and I'm really sorry, Greg, you know, but it's big. Okay, I don't think I need to say.
And that's why we are allowing Attorney Vonzilides to continue this till next month and see what the attorney and the people that own the house can come up with much, much, much more in conformity to the zoning square footage that is allowed.
Yeah, because.
Thank you.
Okay.
So, Attorney Vonzilides, do you want to come back up and just state what your wishes?
I would ask the board if we can continue this to your next meeting so that we can come back with a revised plan. And any of the board members are more than welcome to come to the property and inspect it to see what we're dealing with.
I'll make a motion to continue to our next meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We'll see you next month.
Thank you.
7 is 29 Newbury Street.
Legal notice number 7 is an application of 29 Newbury Street LLC. Applicant is LA Holdings LLC, 18 Baldwin Street, Peabody, Mass., for a variance from the provisions of the zoning ordinance 2020 as amended, sections 7.2, 10.5.3, and 10.7, as it applies to the premise known as 29 Newbury Street, Peabody, Massachusetts, lot 088-004. Petitioner seeks a variance for an addition and requires relief to front yard setback landscape strips where at least 25 feet in depth is required and none is proposed. landscaping trees where 4 per 100 linear feet are required and none are proposed, landscaping for parking in section 10.7 where none is proposed, side setback, corner lot where 40 feet is required and 17.9 feet is proposed. The property is located in a BR Business R1 zoning district.
Twice in one night?
Like I said, there's no place I'd rather be on a Monday evening. But again, for the record, Ethan Vonzalides, I'm an attorney practicing law at 246 Andover Street in Peabody. And with me this evening is Mr. Alex Silva. He's a representative of the applicant. I would think that most of the board members are probably already familiar with this particular piece of property. We're situated on Route 1 North. Our abutter to the right is the Vitopia marijuana store, and to our left is Route 128 overpass, and behind us is basically forested land. It is a pretty small lot for being in the BR1 zoning district. It contains only about 26,900 square feet. As you already know, it is a previously developed site. It contains a two-story building that contains probably about 4,400 square feet. It also contains a one-story building that contains about 1,600 square feet. The entire lot is basically paved. It was originally built with no landscaping, and I think that was due to the fact, due to the limited size of the property along with its unique shape. In the past, the property has been used for the sale of swimming pools. It's been used as a used car dealership. And I think the last time it was used, it was a small engine repair, doing business as Don's Small Engine Repair, I believe. The property, these buildings and the property was originally developed about 45 years ago. I think it's been vacant now for about 5 years. If any of the members have been to this property recently, the first thing they're going to realize is that the buildings and the parking areas in total disrepair and definitely an eyesore to the entire surrounding area. If granted the variance, the applicant wants to construct a one-story, 1,200 square foot addition to this two-story building. He'll perform an interior and exterior renovations to both buildings and to the parking area. He's going to be installing all new siding where necessary, obviously all new windows, insulation, new painting. He'll also be installing all new pavement throughout a portion of the parking area. The interior of the buildings, they'll be renovated to suit his intended use of the property. Mr. Silva intends to use it as an automotive facility for the sale of used cars. They'll be doing mechanical work, auto body work, detailing, and basic automotive repairs. As you can see from our site plan, it's not only a small parcel of land for being in the BR1 zoning district, it also has a very unique and irregular shape. So when you apply the current 50-foot front yard setback to this property along with the 40-foot wide side yard setbacks and the 50-foot long rear yard setback, and then you add to that a front landscaping buffer of 25 feet and side landscaping buffers of 20 feet, and you apply it to this particular piece of property, you result in having virtually nominal parking, which creates not a hardship just for the petitioner, but it's really a hardship for anybody who wants to use this property for commercial purposes. However, as I said earlier, we do have a large grassy area to our left that abuts 128. Overpass, we have the forested land to the rear. To the right of us is the marijuana store, and they don't have any side yard landscaping, so I think the relief can be granted without having any adverse effect to the surrounding area. In addition, this proposal is a three-step process. The first is I need a variance from this board, then I have to go to the planning board for site plan review, and then I have to go to the city council for a special permit. I'm out of conservation. I know they sent you a little thing about being in the Surface Water Protection District, but it's not governed by the Conservation Commission.
You are absolutely positive you do not need approval by the Conservation Commission
I
for
am
this?
absolutely positive, yes.
Okay. I'll take your word for it.
I have emails on it.
Okay, is that it?
That is it, and we'll answer any questions that the board or the public may have.
Anybody in the audience to speak in favor? In opposition? Well, you'll be happy to know that this looks good. And we do have to condition this variance with approval from Planning and City Council. Hearing none, no more questions or comments, the matter is before the board.
Motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion to approve with the conditions that this must be approved by City Council and Planning Board.
Yeah, second.
Roll call vote.
Yes.
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 Yes. All set.
Thank you very much. See you next month.
You know,
Okay.
On a Monday evening.
I think you were a little bit off, too, on your landscaping estimates for the marijuana store. There'll be a lot inside, too, so.
Okay, number 8, 16 Golf Wait Place.
Legal notice number 8 is an application of Dodd Remes and Cynthia H. Trustees for a variance from the provisions of Zoning Ordinance 2020 as amended, Sections 7.2 and 7.15, as it applies to the premise known as 16 Goldthwaite Place, Peabody, Massachusetts, Lot 095-342. Petitioner seeks a variance in addition and requires relief of rear yard setback where 35 feet is required and 9 is proposed, lot coverage where 35% is allowed and 36.2 is proposed, accessory structure setback to primary structure where 6 feet is required and 3.5 feet is proposed. Property is located in an R2 zoning district.
Good evening. My name is Chris Crump, CWC Design, representing my client, Ramesh and Cindy Dad, who've been homeowners there for over 25 years. We previously went for a variance. They had a enclosed porch on the front of the house that we created into full living space back in around 2016, which was approved. Today, we are looking to put an addition on the left-hand side of the house, towards the rear of the house. And currently, there is a bedroom in that back left corner of the house. They would like to bring the laundry room upstairs from the basement so that it's not so hard on them as they can age in place in the house. So in which case, we are simply putting the laundry room for a good portion of the bedroom that's there now, and then putting an addition on the side for the actual bedroom itself. So we're not increasing any bedrooms or anything of that sort. We're simply just bringing the laundry up and pushing the bedroom out to the side. The addition on the home will just extend the existing non-conforming 9-foot setback on the rear of the property. We're not making it any more. We're not intensifying it any more, closer to the property line. And if you were to add up the front and rear setbacks, it's actually doesn't leave any building envelope on the property. So that's kind of our hardship, and that there is actually no other place that we can put the addition on the home. That would make sense. And of course, even if we did put it on the other side of the house, it wouldn't be conducive to the layout of the interior of the home. So the existing garage that's an existing structure that's been there for years. So we're not looking for relief for the garage in any way. It's just the addition that we're looking to put on the side of the home. And it's a one-story addition. I know in the business portal for this, Lucia brought up something about conservation, concerns about conservation, and I did have a conversation with her, and she said that we can, that can be a pending issue with this, contingent upon approval of this. We will get that resolved and make sure that that's taken care of, but she didn't think it would be an issue.
A lot of additions to this property, it looks like.
Two, yeah. This will be the second.
So through the chair, line of sight between the house and the garage, the accessory structure, is that just out of line of sight, the addition? Because you said it's 1 story high?
I'm sorry, say that again?
Is it out of line of sight? So is it gonna be higher than, well, it will be, it's 1 story high, but it's not gonna be higher than the garage, it's not gonna be higher than the house?
The garage, I'm not certain of. I don't know what the approximate height of the garage, to be honest with you.
Okay.
I don't recall I didn't do any measurements on the existing garage, so I don't know the height of it, but it definitely won't be higher than the existing structure.
Okay.
The existing house.
Thank you.
Yep.
I mean, just looking at it, the lot is odd in the way it is very shallow, and what really sticks out to me is what was referenced. If you follow the setbacks, you literally can't build. You have a 3-foot strip. And then the surrounding neighborhood, the homes all appear very similar. I don't know whether they've all had additions over the years or not, or how many or how few, but this board, maybe not this board, but this board, found hardship back in 2014. And just looking at it the way I look at it, it seems in conformity with the neighborhood. I mean, everyone's real tight, if not over, all of their boundary lines in this whole area. And it's in between the garage and the house, like Heath said. I think that kind of minimizes the offensiveness of it, if there was one.
Anybody in the audience to speak in favor? In opposition? Hearing none, the matter is before the board.
Motion to close the public hearing?
Second.
Motion do we need to have a condition with Concom?
I think we should.
Okay. Motion to approve with the condition that if Concom needs to be involved, we must have their approval before this is formally allowed.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Yep.
Yes.
Yes.
You've been approved. Make sure you get in contact with Conservation.
I definitely will. Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Thank you. Number 9 is 0 Coolidge Road.
Legal notice number 9 is an application of Tedisco Properties, LLC, care of the Panos Law Group, for a variance from the provisions of the zoning ordinance 2020 as amended, Section 7.2, as it applies to the premise known as 0 Coolidge Road, Peabody, Massachusetts, 08085-206. Petitioner seeks a variance to allow for the construction of a single-family dwelling on a legally existing non-conforming lot and requires relief to minimum lot area where 30,000 square feet is required and 5,000 square feet is proposed. Minimum lot frontage where 75 feet is required and 50 feet is proposed. Right side yard where 15 feet is required and 10.1 feet is proposed. The property is located in an R4 zoning district.
Good evening. My name is Jason Panos, practicing law at 246 Andover Street, Peabody, Massachusetts. For more clarity, I have larger size plans if you'd like them. Same plan as what's in your packet. You can just, I blew it up so that you could see it a little better. Oh, it's all right. Same as what you have, but that's great. That's fine. So I'm joined here with Pat Tedisco, who's the manager of Tedisco Properties, LLC, the applicant and the developer under the application before you. 0 Coolidge Road is a lot which is overgrown with vegetation and brush and is located in the Residence 4 zoning district, which allows for construction of multifamily structures of 4 or more dwellings. The property results from a recorded subdivision plan dated April 3, 1925, which predates zoning and is a protected pre-existing non-conforming lot. The subdivision lots located on Coolidge Road are all like-sized, around 5,000 square feet each, and the subject property is the last remaining lot there, which is not developed. The property is located in a neighborhood with many existing residential single-family dwelling houses. like the property, the surrounding properties and existing structures, are pre-existing and non-conforming. The applicant proposes construction of a single-family dwelling house, which is similar to those existing single-family structures in the neighborhood as depicted in the plans accompanying the application before the board. Not only did you get a site plan, but we gave you full architecturals. What is proposed there is a 3-bedroom dwelling house with all of the bedrooms on the second floor and common living area, living room, kitchen, dining room on the first floor with a full basement. The ZBA application is for relief from the dimensional requirements of the zoning ordinance as set forth in the application and also pretty well detailed in the site plan, being a 5,000 square foot lot where 32,250 square feet is required because we are in that R4 zone for whatever reason. Most of the houses in that area are single family. So that bumps up the square footage requirement for the lot. A lot with 50 feet of frontage where 75 feet is required, and a right side yard setback where of 10.1 feet where 15 feet are required. The proposed dwelling house on the property will comply with the provisions of the zoning ordinance in all other respects, including and without limitation with regard to height, rear, front, and left side setbacks, parking, and with provision of the 2 street trees in front, which is a recent zoning ordinance add. The requested relief is also similar to that, which this board granted with regard to the immediately adjacent property at 3 Coolidge Road, and I gave you that variance from 2014 in your application packet. As more particularly set forth in the application and the site plan accompanying it, with a dimensional table, each pre-existing nonconformity and congestion will be mitigated with attention specifically to, and you can see on the plan, placement of the dwelling away from the adjacent 7 Coolidge Road property having a setback of about 2.6 feet and in compliance with the zoning ordinance setback on the left on that side of the property. Placement of the dwelling structure closer to the adjacent 3 Coolidge Road property line to the right where the dwelling house is about 15 feet from the property line. Again, placing that structure so that it has as little impact on those side yard setbacks as possible, only requiring variance from one side and not the other. And proposing a single-family dwelling house, which is in direct character with the existing dwellings in the neighborhood. The only difference being this is going to be a new structure that is going to be fully compliant with all applicable building codes, which are in effect today. So the variance that we are asking for, as more particularly set forth in the application, is in compliance with the requirements of the zoning ordinance and general laws 40A, because literal enforcement of the dimensional provisions of the zoning ordinance at the property will prohibit construction of the proposed dwelling house on the last existing undeveloped subdivision lot at Coolidge Road, where adjacent non-conforming pre-existing dwellings are located, which have existed there for almost 100 years. Desired relief may be granted without substantial detriment to the public good and without nullifying the or substantially derogating from the intent and purpose of the zoning ordinance, consistent with section 1.2 to conserve the value of land by making efficient use of it. There is no change in use proposed from that which exists in the neighborhood, And the proposed dwelling structure is, as I mentioned, consistent with that which is there in the neighborhood. And the proposed structure will be in compliance with all applicable building accessibility codes, laws, regulations, and will not cause detriment to the public good. So with that, I'm happy to take any questions you might have. A mouthful.
Thank you, Attorney Panos,
You're welcome.
for that short dissertation. You know, in looking this over and driving by, it does obviously stand out that most of the lots on that street are about the same size, single-family houses. I had a hard time actually finding 0, probably because it is an overgrown mess.
Right.
So, yeah, I'd like to hear from other members of the board, or?
I mean, I actually went by there too. It's blighted, so it'll be good to have some new construction there. The only thing that stuck out is are there any plans for any accessory structure on there at all? Because I didn't see any.
There's no plan, but there may be a shed and back tucked away. If the ultimate buyer of the property wants to put
Gotcha.
something there, then
Gotcha.
they'll have to come before this board to do so.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Questions, comments? Anybody to speak in favor? Wondering what this lone person was doing.
So I'm Matt McKinnon, the direct abutter at 7 Coolidge Road. The only concern I have with the building of this property is on our property line, there's a retaining wall running front to back from about 0 elevation to about 6. With them building it 15 feet away, I just had slight concern, you know, with any over excavation and any undermining of our retaining wall that's on that property line. I spoke with Mr. Tedisco and his lawyer prior to this meeting. They assured me that they would do some shoring to hold up that wall during construction. And he also assured me that if any damage was done to the result of during construction, that he would cover it as well. So I just wanted to voice that concern to the board, but I certainly have no objection to the actual building of the house and the property.
Do you like that retaining wall? Because perhaps you could get a new one.
I mean, obviously, yeah, Versalock block would be a lot better than railroad ties, of course.
We
yes.
want to make sure everybody has a good time at these meetings. Duly noted. That's wonderful. And for anybody that's listening, we don't have too many people left here, but this is the beauty of making something work. Neighbor talking to the petitioner, getting a solution before you come here and you're hearing everything for the first time. So, bravo. Thank you.
Just through the chair real quick. Just because it's just one thing for one person to say something, it's another thing for everybody to agree. Excuse me, to Attorney Panos, Mr. Tedisco, was that all stated correctly by the neighbor that I know we can't condition it upon that, but was that correct?
Yes, we had a good conversation, and it's of absolutely no benefit for us to have his property collapse onto ours. So we share the concern, and we want to make sure. We do feel that the possibility of that happening is remote. Mr. Tedisco did have his foundation contractor out there today to kind of see where things were going to be trenched and dug and where the foundation was going to be poured. And he was of the opinion that it's probably not going to happen, but given the slight possibility that it may, we're all on the same page, and we want to make sure that we're going to do everything possible to keep it safe, keep the lateral structure there. So, yeah.
Thank you.
That's yes.
That's a yes. That's a yes. In favor or opposition? Okay, hearing none, the matter is before the board.
Motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion to approve.
Roll call vote.
Yes.
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 Yes, application is approved. 10 is 176 Lynn Street.
Legal notice number 10 is an application of 182 Lynn Street, Nominee's Trust for a variance from the provisions of the zoning ordinance 2020 as amended, sections 7.2 and 10.5.3, as it applies to the premise known as 176 Lynn Street, Peabody, Massachusetts, lot 115-131A. Petitioner seeks a variance for new construction of a two-family dwelling that requires relief front yard where 30 feet is required and 15 is proposed, left side yard where 25 feet is required and 6 feet is proposed, right side yard where 25 feet is required and 10 feet is proposed, landscaping is required and no buffer is proposed, and 2 street ties are proposed. Driveway width where 20 feet is required, 16 is proposed. The property is located in a BN zoning district.
Thank you. My name is John Kelty. I'm an attorney, and I have offices at 40 Lowell Street here in Peabody, Massachusetts. I appear on behalf of James Pica, whose wife is the current trustee of the 182 Lynn Street Nominee Trust. This is a property that was inherited through the estate, through an estate where Mrs. Pica served as caretaker for a significant period of time. And we are the family that had owned the property since almost turn of the century were the Koffels. And Len Koffel was the most recent party in the family to pass away. We are proposing to build a two-family residence. I was contacted at the outset of this meeting by Councilor Craig Welton, who told me that he could not make the meeting this evening, nor could former Ward 1 Councilor, now Councilor at Large, John Turco, and neither could make the meeting, but both authorized me to say that they had seen the plan, they've met with the Picas, they were in favor of this occurring. This is a property that has remained undeveloped for a period of time. I believe history of this property would reveal that there was a Richdale, I believe. No South Peabody guys here, women here? Was it Richdale? Yeah, it was immediately adjacent to the, now I'm showing my age again. But there was a Richdale. Brian Barrett remembers it. And we were at one time thinking in terms of redeveloping it as commercial. There was opposition among certain of the neighbors to develop the property as residential. So we've designed a building that would be a two-family, and it actually complies with the zoning ordinance if we were in an R2 zoning district. We are in a BN, so my request for variances is from the setbacks required in a BN, and we're proposing setbacks that would be exactly the same as is required in a two-family zone. Property has sufficient area to build the two-family, and we are proposing a driveway, which actually I've asked for relief from the driveway because we are using to access the rear of the premises where we can park all of our cars. We're proposing to use a right-of-way, which at one time, some 60 years ago, was shared by the people on either side, and now the Marins had given up their rights. They are the next-door neighbor. They had given up their rights some years ago, so we're the only people with rights in the driveway, in the right-of-way. So we're using that as our driveway, and it is half of that driveway is 16 feet wide.
So would you do a history lesson here of
No,
what's going on 60 years ago?
Unfortunately, I think I first took a crack at this almost 25 years ago. So I'm pretty familiar with the property. With me this evening are Mr. and Mrs. Pica. They're happy to answer any questions you may have. The request we're seeking from the landscape variance is if it was in a BN zoning district, which we are not. So we're landscaping in accordance with single-family or two-family zoning. I'm happy to answer any questions the board may have.
I don't have a question per se. However, so this two-family will be next to, correct me if I'm wrong, Ocean Delight?
Yes.
Right next door to it.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
in the past, when we have houses, people living next to or in back of a restaurant
Commercial,
or,
yeah.
or a convenience store, there seems to be a lot of trouble. Smells from the business next door, roof, whatever they have on the top, like an air conditioning unit, a freezer unit, the noise, the lights. It just, I'm not saying that this is something, not correct to build. I'm just thinking that, is this the best something to build next to a fried food, open a lot, hours, maybe noisy business?
I can address that. First and foremost, it's a rental property. So people that have an interest in renting the property, they will see what they are adjacent to. The owners of the property who are here this evening are well aware of the use of Ocean Delight, and they are, we had pursued it as commercial property. There was no appetite for the neighborhood in back of us or the neighbors to our left or going downtown for further commercial development, and their goal and their vision was always to utilize it residentially, and so that's what brings us here this evening.
Just a comment through the chair. I live in the neighborhood. The lot currently is awful. It's now Rizzo's Pizza. I support this wholeheartedly. It's about time we did something with this mess.
Well, I respect that.
Quickly, Attorney Kelty, you mentioned about the right-of-way there. Yep. Is there ever going to be I know you can't speak in absolutes forever in perpetuity, but is there anything that would suggest an issue with use of that right-of-way in the future, where at some point, by some crazy accumulation of facts, they could lose access to that rear parking?
No, I don't foresee that happening. The history of this particular right-of-way is that was actually the way to an ice house that was on Spring Pond down in the back. And you accessed it during this. I actually looked up the deeds of everybody that lives on MacArthur Circle out and back. Nobody has this right-of-way showing as being usable or have them providing any rights in it. So no, I don't think there's any foreseeable future.
Okay, so the only people with rights, or the only property with rights to it is your clients?
That's correct.
Okay. That was my concern. That God forbid something happens and boom, their parking's cut off. Now what do we do? Okay.
Well, since you're showing your age this evening, what's an ice house?
An ice house is where they had the tongs and where they would pull ice out of the pond, and then they would cut it into blocks, and they would store it in the ice house.
For
Yes,
people's
yes.
refrigerators?
For Jack's freezer.
My personal, I still have an ice chest.
Okay, thank you. So anybody in the audience to speak in favor? In opposition, the matter is before.
Motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion to approve.
Roll call vote.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes?
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Are we accepting minutes of which month? Can we accept the minutes for January 28th?
Motion to accept the minutes?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that's accepted. Is that it? Our next meeting is March 21st. All of you, March 21st.
I'll be here.
All set? We are adjourned. Oh, wait, what?
You're just going to keep numbers 4 and 6.
Just 4 and 6?
I think you should keep 5 as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Chris, we need 4, 5, and 6. Not to throw, we need to give 4, 5, and 6 to Carla.
Okay.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second, we're all set. Good evening, that's it. Thank you, everybody.